Thank you so much for buying Backstab. This trick has been so good for me for the last several years, and I would like to thank Nathan Carranzo for ultimately giving me the inspiration to create this effect. I was doing Nathan's trick for a couple of years prior to me creating Backstab. I don't want you to see it as a magic trick though. I want you to see it as a tool. I want you to see it as a skill, because this is what this trick, this tool, this method was created for. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into Backstab. When you open your package, you're going to get a few things inside of it. First, you're going to get a gimmick that is already assembled, which is right over here. Now, we provided you a red back playing cards, okay? We did this because this is the most common that most people use. However, if you use a blue back or just a custom deck of cards that you typically perform with, we will teach you in a later section how to disassemble this gimmick and assemble it with your preferred playing cards. Now, you're going to get two of these, and inside is basically two cards that are sandwiched with two magnets. And when they come together, they magnetize. So you're going to basically need this to perform with. We provided with you in this package 4 extra magnets. Now, in a later section, we're going to tell you how to use these. You could use them to basically sandwich more playing cards if you want to, or you could use this just in case you lose some of these magnets that came already assembled. You will also need a deck of playing cards and a pocket knife. You want something that is pretty sharp on the tip, so it could stab through cards, or stab through really the top card and pick up. So you want something that is pretty sharp at the tip, and then also you could dole out the sides if you need to for your safety. And we're going to talk about the safety here in a couple moments. But again, you need a pocket knife, a deck of cards, and what came with the package is a gimmick already assembled and some extra magnets. All right, we're going to talk about knife safety before we get started. Now, these are obviously very, very dangerous, and in performance, when you do this the first couple times, your adrenaline is going to be going, you're going to be a little bit nervous, and people are going to be watching, and I just want to make sure you're as safe as possible. So when you get a pocket knife, I want to make sure that you get something that has like a curb, so when you stab, you don't accidentally slip with your hands and go onto the blade. So a couple things to prevent that is you could get a pocket knife like this that's basically curved so it gets the outline of your hand when you hold it. And also you could dole out the blade all the way up to the tip. So you could dole all this out, so when you perform the effect, in the off chance that you basically slip with your hand, it's already dull and you're going to be okay. It's really, really important that you have a knife that you're comfortable with. Every now and then I will actually borrow a knife if someone has like a pocket knife on them, or if we're like at a steakhouse and there's like a sharp knife that people cut their steak with. However, I would advise the first 5 to 10 times you do this in front of people, you use your own pocket knife that you are comfortable with, and just do the effect a couple times just to get used to it. And once you feel really, really comfortable doing it, then if you want to, you could start borrowing of other people's knives and go from there. So the hand position that I use for this particular pocket knife, I open it up, I turn it, and I hold it just like this. Now, a lot of pocket knives, they all have different designs. You could go to your local Walmart or Bass Pro Shop or Dick's Sporting Good, and you could pick up a good pocket knife for yourself. Just make sure you're comfortable with it, and it has a pretty good size as well. So this has a curve, as you can see right over here. I put my pinky and my ring finger on those curbs. I put my thumb on top, and then I go for the stab. So not much to it. Just make sure you're comfortable with it. Practice this. Make sure you're comfortable with it before you start performing it. There we go. That's a little explanation of the pocket knife that I carry, and find one that you're comfortable with. Now we will get into the explanation of the effect. All right, so I'm going to show you the performance of Backstab. We have my buddy Scott. He's going to fill in as a spectator. Scott, could I have you pick a card, any card? I'm sure we've all seen this one before. Show it to your friends. When you're done, you let me know. Got it?
Yep.
All right, now Scott, just tell me when to stop.
Stop.
All right, go ahead, put it back. Fantastic. And, oh, hey, okay. We'll keep going. So magicians all over the world, Scott, will start shuffling these cards, you know, something like this, so they could convince you that your card is buried somewhere in the deck, right? I'm going to be completely honest with you, Scott. I think I messed this up, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to rely on my memory here, okay? So let's see here. Okay, got it. Scott, I have no clue what card you just picked. However, I do know the order of this deck of cards. So for the first time, Scott, please say your card out loud.
The Queen of Diamonds.
Queen of Diamonds.
Oh, wait, no.
Queen of Diamonds is 48.
Queen of Spades.
Queen of Spades, that is 14. Queen of Spades is the 14th card in this deck. That's the 14th card. Now, Scott, before you turn that around, check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 cards. And the 14th card should be your selected card. And that's a performance of Backstab. All right, so this is the explanation of Backstab. The performance you just watched is typically the performance I perform around people. So this is what we're going to do. This is the setup, okay? You have your deck of cards in the box. Now, if you're in a situation where it's not I guess socially acceptable to really pull out like a pocket knife to do this effect, it's okay. You could still use your deck of cards to perform your regular routines. However, if you know, hey, you know, you can pull out your pocket knife and it's not going to raise an eyebrow, then this effect is going to be good. And I would advise you closing with this because I believe it's that strong of an effect. So this is what you do. You have your deck of cards and you take it out. So what's going to happen here is your Backstab gimmick with your stacked 10 cards in between is at the very, very bottom of the deck. So you have your regular deck of cards, and then you feel the block right over here with the magnets. That's at the very, very bottom, okay? Again, if you're not in a situation where you could pull out cards, you could still do your routines. And if you are, you've got your stack. This is really all you need. Whoop. This is really all you need for the performance. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to have a spectator pick any card. Now, when you spread the cards, you want to make sure they get it on the top stack, which is right over here. And you don't want them to pick any of these cards right over here. So you want to make sure as you spread, you're spreading pretty slowly. It's not a force. You just want to make sure they don't get to the very, very bottom. Have them pick a card. They pick one. Let's say it is the Ace of Clubs, okay? Have them show it to their friends. And then what you want to do is you want to swing cut. And you're going to say, just tell me when to stop. So what's going to happen here is this stack right over here acts as a key card. This stack right over here. So what you're going to do is you're going to swing cut just like this, and you're going to ask the spectator, just tell me when to stop. Or you could just say, put it somewhere in the middle. There you go. I like just saying, hey, tell me when to stop. And you just basically swing cut a bunch of small stacks, not disturbing the bottom stack, okay? They say stop, and then they put their Ace of Clubs on the very top of all those swing cuts, and then what's going to happen is your key card at the bottom and their selected card is going to meet. And what I like to do is I like to kind of dribble the cards because this bottom magnet will basically unlock and you just have a really nice moment right over here. Not overselling it, not saying anything, but basically that block isn't a block anymore. You just kind of riffle it. It's kind of a nice little subtlety. And then what's going to happen at this moment is, and you could basically cook this up in any way you want. Sometimes I pretend to screw up a trick. Sometimes I just say, now magicians at this point, as you know, will start shuffling the cards. And as I do that, I just make a mess on the table. And it's a really, really nice moment because it's just this moment where you throw cards down, and what's going to happen is you're basically going to get to the block. So you just feel this block because it's 10 cards in between. You feel that. So what you're doing here is you're going to say magicians all over the world will start, as you know, start shuffling these cards so they could make you realize that your card is completely lost. And then what happened here is I know I'm 2 cards away from the stack. So 1, 2, and then you have the stack. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this card down. You want 1 regular card on top of the stack because once you perform a lot, you're going to get a lot of nicks. So you want 1 cover card before you perform. This is a nice little touch Nathan Carranzo had in his download. So it works for me as well. It's a really, really nice idea. So what's going to happen here is you've got your stack, you got your regular card, you got your stack, and then you've got their selected card. What I do right here is I just go down to the rest of the cards, and then I just throw these down very, very sloppy, and then I throw these on top, just like that. So you've got this really nice moment of you got 1 card. You basically controlled 1 card, 1 regular card. You controlled the stack, and then you controlled their ace of clubs. So at this moment, I'm going to say, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I really have no clue what card you selected, so I'm going to rely on my memory here. So you go to the cards. Now, you want to use a hard table when you do the stab. Some tables, they have like a little bounce. You don't want that. You want a nice hard table to do the stab because sometimes just the way the bounce is, it won't get the stack when you do the stab. So anyways, at this moment, you're like, I'm going to rely on my memory. Sometimes I'll spread it. This table, you don't spread well. So what I'll do is I'll just go through the cards like this. I'm going to say, I'm going to rely on my memory here. And you just basically pretend you're memorizing every single one of these cards. You say, I have no clue what card you selected. And my hands are up here at this moment. I say, I have no clue what card you selected. And then I say, but I do know the order of that deck of cards. So I do that so they know I'm not messing with the cards. I'm not doing any sneaky moves. At this moment, they know that I have no clue what card they're saying. So they're about to say a random card supposedly to the magician, and the magician's about to do something. And I say, for the first time, what was the name of your card? They say, the ace of clubs. Scott, he forgot his card just for a moment. He said another card, and then he said whatever selected card the performance was at. That was a really nice moment, and that's going to happen a lot when you perform. And when that happens, you want to capitalize on that moment. A lot of people will say King of Hearts. No, it was the King of Spades. And then you're going to say, okay, the King of Hearts was the 35th card in this deck, but the King of Spades is the 14th. So it adds a level of deception of when you're about to stab it, because you could have stabbed a different number, but they said the King of Spades or whatever it was, and that's the 14th card. I always do 14, by the way. I always do 14. With the gimmick, I have the 2 gimmicks. I have 10 cards in between, so it's a total of 12. I have 1 on top, 1 regular card, that's 13, and the 14th card is their selected card. I always do 14. So you're at this moment right over here. They say the ace of clubs, and you say the ace of clubs is the 14th card in that deck. You hold it right here, and then you present the knife at this point. You don't want to present it before. You want to present it in that moment because they don't know what's about to happen right now. They just said their card. they really believe that this trick really screwed up. And then you pull out this knife. You don't need to say anything at this moment. You say, that's the 14th card in this deck. Check this out. You do it. It's this really, really nice moment. This magician now has a weapon, and he's about to stab these cards. And you could even say, if you feel like in their eyes they're a little bit uncomfortable, like, why is he pulling out a knife? Then you could be like, if I stabbed 13 cards in this deck right now, would you be impressed? And they're going to say yes, and then you just do it. If they feel like a little bit uncomfortable. But what I like to do, I think just a really, really nice presentation is, they say the ace of clubs, you say the ace of clubs. That is the, and sometimes I'll say, if they get it right the first time, they're like, no, it's the ace of clubs. They're not like, oh, it's the ace of hearts. No, the ace of clubs. If they just say the ace of clubs, you say that is the I say that is the 26th card in this deck. Wait, hold on. No, that's the 14th card in this deck. So you're trying to sell the idea that you actually memorize this whole deck of cards, and you're trying to remember the position of the ace of clubs. So you say, that's the 26th, no, that's the 14th card in this deck, 14. I'm going to try getting 13. Make sure it locks. Again, make sure it locks. Last thing you want is this knife to, when you stab, to close and you get stabbed and not the cards. I cannot stress that. You'll hear a click and you'll know you're good to go. And what happens is you basically are going to stab the cards. And I'm going to explain this quite a bit because I have done this over and over and over again. And there's ways to stab this deck where you won't screw it up. But basically you want to, that's 13 cards. And you say, that's a 14th card right over there. And you say, before you turn it around, so they haven't turned it around. They're going to want to reach down and turn this around right away. You say, nope, before you turn it around, check it out. You say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now, in the performance with Scott, I did this all face up. I don't typically do it. I usually count it all face down. So again, I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Immediately after that, what you're going to do, because this last card with the key card is going to have all these nicks right over here. What you want to do is you want to pick this up and you want to immediately turn it around. So the only card they see that is nicked is the card you just stabbed. So it gives the illusion that all these cards just have one nick. But this is just the key card. And then they turn around the next card, the 14th card, and it is the ace of clubs. Now, before we move on, I need to talk about the stab moment. That's the most important moment in this whole routine. Now, if you think about it, you're set up right over here, okay? You have your regular card, you've got your stack, and then you got their selected card. You don't want to, I mean, you want to give it a little bit of, you want to make sure you basically stab one card and then into the block. So you want to make sure you get a good stab going, okay? However, you got to remember that there's two magnets right over here. And you don't want to wind up this knife like all the way, you don't want to wind it up like this and basically go for it. You basically want to you just want to kind of stab right over here. Because if you think about it, you want to make sure you basically get the knife stab just somewhere in between, like just somewhere in this vicinity right over here. So you want to make sure you don't have like a really, really long range trying to stab it because you could hit the magnet or you just might completely miss it, or you might go in at an angle like this. And if you do that, all these cards are going to disperse, and that's the last thing you want. It just looks terrible. You don't need to oversell this. Just go like this, and you stab. The first couple performances, you're going to really want to stab this really, really hard because you want to make sure you get the stack, but you really don't need that much. You don't need that much velocity to really get that stack. And again, you want to make sure you have a hard table, okay? We're actually a moment ago doing this on a table that had some bounce on it, and it didn't work. And you just want to make sure it's a hard table because the last thing I want is you to go for the stab that moment and the cards aren't sticking together or it just goes all over the place. So you want to make sure you have a hard table when you perform it. Even if you're out on the street and you can't even find a table, just do it on the ground. Put the deck of cards on the ground, go down, and what I do is I go all the way down to the ground. I stab it, I pick it up, and I look at everyone and I get up to their level. And then I have them put their hands out like this, and I count each card until I get to the 13th card, and then I immediately turn it around. Again, to overview everything, I know I'm over explaining this, but there's just a lot of details that I have learned doing this over and over again. I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did. So I'm just gonna give you a little overview. Again, you take the cards out and the stack is at the very bottom. Okay? You have them pick a card, not messing with the bottom stack. So you have them pick a card. They pick one. Again, if they want to go to the bottom, you're going to swing cut and you're going to just force it on them, okay? They pick one, they show it to their friends, and then you're going to just keep swing cutting, not disturbing the bottom stack. Because I have had a time where I pick it up like that, and I believe I'm either close, yeah, I'm disturbing the stack right there. And when you disturb the stack, you screwed up your trick. So you want to make sure you're above the stack. They tell you to stop. They put the card. For this is the 4 of clubs, and then you riffle. Nice little moment. Don't even talk about it. Now, in this situation right over here, there's only a couple cards until the stack. Some people will do that. So when they do that, just naturally just cut the cards, okay? So you have a little room to work with. You say magicians all over the world will start basically pretending to shuffle so they can make you believe that your card is lost. But I'm going to be completely honest. I have no clue what card you chose. And then you say, I'm going to rely on my memory here. Do it. Be like, I have no clue what card you chose, but I do know the order of that deck of cards. So for the first time, what was it? They say, what did we just pick? The 4 of clubs? I think it was the 4 of clubs. You take out your knife, you say, I'm going to try getting 13. Depending on your persona, everybody is different. Just play with the different ways you want to perform this silently. Sometimes when I know it might be a little bit awkward to take out a knife, then I'll say, I'm going to try stabbing 13. And then I take out the knife. And then again, just right here, this is your sweet spot. You don't want to wind it up. Again, the last thing you want is missing the card, hitting the magnet, or just like going sideways. So you stab, you pick up, you count face down. Again, Scott, I did it face up, but I typically do it face down like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Immediately pick it all up. Turn around so they just see one nick. That's a beautiful moment. And then they turn around their selected card, which was the 4 of clubs. All right, guys, so let's talk about the stack and the way you want to use this when you do your regular sets, okay? So again, at the very, very bottom of the deck of cards is basically your stack. And then you've got regular cards on top. I just performed this. There's no need for you to do a deck switch. There's no need for you to do anything fancy because this is the gimmick right here. It looks like a regular playing card. So all you need to do is, go into your, what I typically do is I go into a 2-card Monty routine. And then right after that, I'll do Backstab, and that's all I need to do with the deck of cards. That's the way I am as a performer. That's how I perform. I don't do too many card tricks. I do a few, and the few that I do, I just want to make sure it packs a really big punch. So I usually go to a simple 2-card Monty routine, and then I will end it with this. Again, if you want to do other routines and you need a full deck of cards, then what you could do is you could basically, if you have a stack or you're doing other routines, you could still spread these cards and use them, but you just want to make sure you keep in mind that whatever number you have in between the Backstab gimmicks, you just want to make sure if you take any out or put any in, you are mindful of that. So when you claim that it's the 14th card, then when you count out, it's going to be 13 and the 14th card is going to be their selected card. Now, if you are doing if you have an invisible deck, a second gimmick deck in your back pocket, you do your invisible deck routine or whatever. If it's like a full deck of cards that's completely gimmicked, then you do your routine, and then it's just, you don't need to oversell it. You just want to do, because the trick is over, everybody's guard is down, you just did your invisible deck routine or whatever gimmick that you use in your deck, and then all you do is you put it in your back pocket, and then you just do a double take. You say, oh, by the way, actually, could I show you guys one more thing? And then, so it acts like you're about to put it back, but you pull it back out. You say, could I show you one more thing? And I just did a deck switch just there. The pocket knife's in your pocket, and you're ready to rock and roll. You just did the deck switch, and you're ready to perform Backstab. So there you go. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about the texture of the stack, okay? So after you perform it about 10 to 15 times, you're going to see a little bit of texture of the cards in between, depending on how hard you stab. But this is basically the cards that were just regular cards in between the stack. And as you keep doing it, it adds some texture, which gets a little bit more thicker. So what you want to do after 10 to 15 stabs, you be the judge of that. You could kind of get a gauge of how your cards are doing. Just throw these away and get 10 more cards and just put it in between your 2 gimmicks. Because it's flat and it's not as thick as these cards. It's still going to hold, but I side on just being a little bit more conservative doing this just in case it gets too thick and the magnets don't hold up anymore. So that's 10 new cards in between your Backstab gimmick, and you'll be good for the next 10 to 15 performances. This is a very, very short version of how to use Backstab. I like this effect because some shows I do is for younger audiences, high schoolers, and they typically want to see something really, really quick. If you do something on video as well, if you're a YouTuber or want to do stuff on Facebook as far as your following goes, I feel like this is the way to do it, okay? You don't have to have 2 people even pick a card. You could just say 13. You stab it and count out 13 cards. So what I did was I took out the cards, and you had the stack of 10 cards in between in the 2 Backstab gimmicks, so a total of 12 cards, and I had the force cards on top. I had a 10 and a 3 because I wanted to force the number 13. And all I did was just a standard riffle force. I'm going to teach that to you real quick. With the consistency of the force and everything and what we just talked about, we're going to do a swing cut like that. So basically the top cards transfer to my left hand because I'm right-handed, and I put the rest of the cards on top. And then right here is a pinky break. So that's the break you want to force the card. So you know that wherever you're going to stop at is going to be the force card. So again, first you want to force the 10. You swing cut. You have a pinky break right there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to basically say, I'm going to riffle through the cards. Wherever you say stop, we're going to stop at. So let's say like they stop somewhere up here. Oh, hey. Okay. Let's say they stop somewhere up here. All you got to do is just cover. They won't know the difference. So they say stop right over here. All you do is wherever you had your pinky break, you're just gonna pick up that whole stack. So again, tell me when to stop. They say stop right there, and then you just pick up the whole stack, and you say go ahead and take your card. And you forced your first card, which is the 10. And you just want to say, I don't even care about the suits. All we need is like a random number, okay? And you do the same for the second person. Again, if you're doing this just for one person, you don't need to force 2 cards. So all you could do is like force the king and say the jack is going to act as 11, the queen is 12, and the king is 13, okay? You don't need to force 2. And sometimes I just force 1 just for the convenience of moving on the overall effect to make it as quick as possible, okay? So again, so you force the first card, which is the 10, and then you want to force the second card. Again, you're just gonna, after you force the first card, you're gonna put the stack back on top so you're ready with your 3. You swing cut, you say tell me when to stop, and with the pinky break, you just take that whole stack, and you give it to them, and that's a 3. And you say, we're just gonna add your numbers together, okay? And as you do that, all you do is casually spread the cards until you get to your stack. And you put these cards down, you put a regular card on top of the stack, and then you just put the bottom cards down as we talked about before, and then on. So again, let me explain that from the table. Let's say that your stack is somewhere in the middle. They say, we're just gonna combine these. So let's go ahead and turn them around. As they turn them around, you're just gonna casually spread the cards until you feel your stack, which is right here. And you're gonna give 1 card away, 1 regular card, okay? So this is your stack right here, 1 regular card. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna drop, and let it be clumsy, okay? That's what we're going for here. And then you got your stack. So this is a total of 13 right now. So you got this. So you just go to the bottom, you throw the bottom cards, and then you throw the stack and everything else, and you just square it up. So you got 1 card, you got the stack, and that's a total of 13 cards. They reveal the 10 and the 3, and you say 13. Great. We're gonna try stabbing 13 cards. Here we go. You say, and it could have been any card, yes? 13, and they're gonna affirm that 13. Again, right here is your sweet spot. You don't wanna wind it up because it's gonna be less accurate. Just right over here. Pick up, you say, now, and you just throw the rest of the cards aside, okay? As soon as you do that, you just throw the rest of the cards aside. You say, 13, check it out. Now, I failed to mention before, as you stab and you basically take the stack out in the cards, what I like to do, just if I don't know these people, the first thing you should do is take the knife and put it back in safety mode. I think that's what it's called, safety mode. We'll just call it safety mode. You just want to put it back if you don't know these people, because the last thing you want is some drunk guy or someone to pick up the knife and do something stupid with this. So, and if you don't know these people and you feel a little bit like things might get a little bit weird, just put it back in your pocket, okay? You put this on the table, and sometimes if I know the guys, I just quickly just put it on the table. And you say 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then slow down at the end. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Get them all together, and then turn around so they see the nick. The illusion is that the nick was the very bottom card, which in fact it was the top card. And that's just a pure skill effect that you could show to your friends. They pick a random number, seemingly, and you stab to it and you get it. Now, this is with the 2 magnets. This might be a time you might want to consider if you want to do more cards, where you're like, 13 cards is impressive, but it's not as impressive as like getting like 17 cards or 18 cards. Then you could add the 2 extra magnets onto this, but just again, make sure you stab a lot harder so the illusion, there's not a discrepancy in the illusion with the depth of your knife and also the stack. So if you want like a bigger number than just 13, then you could add 2 more magnets onto the gimmick and you could do more cards as well. So there you go. All right, for this next demonstration, we're gonna make a spectator a magician. It's gonna be kind of like a prediction effect, okay? Now, before I go on with the effect, it's really, really important that you guys, if you guys decide to do this variation of the effect, you're not looking around to hand someone a knife to do it and do the stab. That's really, really dangerous. Do not do that. However, if someone has a pocket knife, they're comfortable with knives, they use their pocket knife all the time, then you could have them take their pocket knife out and they could do the effect with the stab. There's 2 qualifying questions. Who has a pocket knife? And are you comfortable using a pocket knife? 2 qualifying questions before you get into this effect. If they say no on either one of those, then don't do this effect because it could get really, really ugly really fast if they're not comfortable with the pocket knife, okay? With that said, this is pretty cool. So this is what we're going to do. We have George here. He's going to help us out. Now, George,
Hey.
You haven't done this before, right?
Nope.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. You have 2 decks of cards. We couldn't find a blue back, so we're going to use the ICO 2016. Not getting any
You want me to stab those?
royalties on this. No, not these ones, but in these ones. Okay, so I'm going to make a little prediction right over here, okay?
Okay.
Okay. That right over there, that's my prediction, George, okay? So this is what we're going to do, George. You're going to pick a card, but not in the conventional way, okay? This is how we're going to do it. You're going to stab these cards with this knife right over here. Whatever you stab at, you're going to pick it up, the next card, whatever it is, that's going to be your
You want me
card.
to stab it from the face?
Yeah, why don't you stab it from the face, okay? Now, George, this is what I want you to do. When you stab it, I don't want you to stab it and pick it up. I want you to stab and hold it, and then we're going to pick it up gradually and dramatically.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. It is the King of Spades. I will take this from you. The King of Spades.
Da-da-dum.
Boom.
Nice.
And that is spectator as magician as a prediction effect. So
love it.
we'll get into the explanation.
It's great.
All right. So this is the explanation of a magician becoming a spectator becoming a magician becoming a spectator. I had that backwards. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. You have 2 decks. This deck right over here has the Backstab gimmick, and then this, we couldn't find a blue back, so we just used this, but you could just use whatever other deck of card you could find around the house, or you could go buy some. So this is what we're going to do. You take out the regular deck of cards, and you're going to look for the force card, okay? For this example, it was the King of Spades. You take it and you just put it on the table, and you're not going to touch that again. Then we're going to open this deck of cards, and this is already ready for the performance. I did it face up because I think it looks a little bit better for this particular variation to do it face up, because they stab, when they pick up, they know exactly what the next card is, no question asked. They don't need to turn around or anything like that, so it's a really nice touch, okay? So anyways, you have that ready, you have one regular card, you have the stack, and then you have the force card, the king, okay? So that's how you want it all face up in the box when you take it out, okay? And what you could do, now again, this table, you can't spread it, but you could even spread it. So when you spread it, you're just basically unmagnetizing the two backstab gimmicks. And then when you square it up again, it basically gets back together again. You give the spectator a knife.
Well, technically.
Technically it should be their knife. So you shouldn't give them.
Pulling it out of my pocket.
Yeah, pull it out, and then you basically walk through what's going to happen. Because with this gimmick, if you stab and pick up quickly, you won't get the stack. So you want to make sure you stab, you hold, and then you pick up. That's something I forgot to mention a little bit earlier, but it's really, really important. So when you walk through with the spectator what they're about to do, you're going to say you're going to stab, you're going to hold, you're going to pick up. Because if they don't, they're going to naturally want to kind of, exactly. They just kind of want to bounce it.
Yeah.
And when you bounce it, it's either the magnets are going to unmagnetize or you're not going to get the block, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, okay? So you're at this situation, you have your prediction, which is the king, and then you have the spectator take out their knife. Can you open it up?
Yeah, of course.
Fantastic, George. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, okay? You're going to stab this deck of cards so we could pick a completely random card, okay? When you stab it, I want you to, don't really reel it up, just kind of right over here, you're going to stab it. And when you stab it, I don't want you to pick it up, I just want you to hold it right there, okay? And then this also builds a lot of anticipation on what the card they stab to as well. So it's a little nice touch as well. So go ahead and stab it and hold. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hold, it's okay. Pick it up. And then at this moment, you could say 13. We'll get to that in a second. Remind me of that, okay? And then you pick those up, you put it to the side. You say you pick the king of spades. And then after they get done, well, I shouldn't have done this. You say, can you please put that pocket knife up? And make sure they put that in their pocket because first and foremost, you want the safety, the king of spades, and then they turn it around. And it is an exact match just like that. And then someone will mention something like 13, what was 13? You're like, oh, 13, check it out. And then you just count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Or another better way to perform that is this trick is called 13. We're going to get, and I'll tell you why it's called 13 at the end of this trick. I think that's a better touch.
Sure.
And then at the very end, you say, this is why I call it 13. And you count out what they just stabbed to, and it's 13 cards. So a really, really good variation. I think this is the strongest way to do the trick, again, but it's also the most dangerous because it's completely out of your hands and your spectator is handling a pocket knife. So just be careful with this version of it, but it is, in my opinion, the strongest way to do it because it's completely hands-off at this point. And the two dirty cards are completely invisible, the backstab gimmicks. Wonderful effect. So hope you guys enjoy that one. All right, here's another variation of backstab. I really like this a lot. I can't take credit for it, though. My buddy Joshua Jordan came up with this nice little idea to use with this gimmick, and he gave me permission to share it with all of y'all. So this is what we're going to do. You take out the deck of cards, and he did this as a YouTube video. He basically said, I don't have anybody to pick a card right now, so we're going to randomly pick one with my magic wand. That's how he performed it, and I really, really like that. And you could use this even as ultimately a card force. So that's ultimately what it is a card force, okay? So he basically had to force a card with nobody around. So he said, since nobody is here to pick up a card, we're going to use my magic wand. And he stabbed, picked up the backstab gimmick, and then he said, we're going to use the Queen of Diamonds. And that's the force card. So he used this idea as forcing a card. I think it's brilliant to use it that way if you don't have anybody to pick a card for a YouTube video that you want to basically produce, or you could use this as a force for other things you want to do. So this is just kind of a general idea for you to get your creative juices flowing. So hope you guys enjoyed that. All right, so this is another variation that you can use for backstab. This personally I don't use because it has a little bit of a bigger procedure for my own personality and the way I like to perform things. However, if you could script it tight enough and it could be entertaining enough, I think this is a really, really powerful way to use backstab, and the payoff is also really, really big. So it's ultimately a card at any number effect. The general idea of card at any number is someone says a number and someone says a card, and they count down to that number, and it's the selected card that that other person says. So this is a really good way to do it. Again, it's just going to be a little bit longer. It's a combination of the pure skill demonstration that we did, where two people just basically pick a card as a number, and then also the memory effect. So it's a combination of those two to come up with this effect. So ultimately what you're going to do is you're going to force a number first, okay? So I have the king. The king is going to act as 13. So you want to articulate to your audience that the jack is 11, the queen is 12, and then the king is 13. So you're going to force the number first, okay? Again, you got the pinky break. You're going to riffle. Tell me when to stop. Someone says stop. And you say the king. Okay, that is 13. Fantastic. So, and then all you do is when they do it, when they say stop, you just turn around. Like it's not a secret what card they just chose to or picked. Okay, we're just getting a number. So you say 13. Interesting. Okay, and then you have another person pick a card, and this is in secrecy. And they show it to your friends to say that it's the jack of diamonds. Okay, you say, tell me when to stop. They stop. Again, what we explained before. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the memory effect that I showed a little bit earlier today, and you'll know all the handling. So the jack of diamonds, they put it in, and it meets with the stack, just like that. And you say, again, we're just going to shuffle this, just like that. And as you do that, you just want to talk to your friends and say, and you could have picked any number, and it was the king, which is 13. So as you're just being sloppy here, you say, again, you could have picked any number, but you picked 13. You're just being sloppy, and then you're going to square it back up. At this point, you take out the knife. You say 13 cards. Here we go. You take it, stab, and you say, before you turn that around, check this out. And this is a little joke I use when I perform this. I say safety first. Put that up. It usually gets a little chuckle. And then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13. And then they turn around, and it's the jack of diamonds. So that's a card at any number variation, using a very interesting tool, a knife, to get to that, accomplish that effect. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you're not in a situation where you could stab the cards, then we have come up with another variation of the backstab gimmick. What you're going to have is you're going to have someone pick a card, and let's say it's the King of Hearts. What you're going to do is you're going to swing, cut. You're going to have them put it back, and ultimately what happened just there is their card is completely gone. And you could spread it. It's completely gone, and then it's a card to anywhere. So that card is gone, and it could be in their back wallet. It could be stuck on the wall. It could be pretty much anywhere. So it's a card at anywhere at that point. All you need is a duplicate King of Diamonds to put wherever you want in someone's shoe. Like literally, it's infinite ideas. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any other additional ideas with this is a little bit different than the conventional way we're using it. I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, so I want to talk about some of the things that you might run across as far as using your backstab gimmick that won't let you accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish. Now, when you stab the cards, again, you want to do a little bit of force. However, when we did the Spectator to Magician, George, when he did it the first couple of times, he barely put any force on it and it picked up the stack. Now, that's because this is a pretty heavy-duty pocket knife. If you have a smaller pocket knife, it might need a little bit more force. The bigger pocket knives, you're probably going to need not as much force. But again, I want you to use whatever knife you buy and experiment with it, and you'll know exactly how much force to put onto it, okay? Now, as far as the cards go, one of three issues is going to happen that won't let you accomplish this effect. Well, actually, one of 4 issues. The first issue is the table, whatever you're stabbing on. If you don't have a hard table and it ricochets, or it's just kind of a bouncy table, you could still accomplish the effect. However, it is risky because it's just bouncy and you won't get like the full force of the knife stab into the cards. So you want to make sure you have a hard wood, just a hard table, or if you're doing it on the ground, just a hard ground. You just want to make sure it's hard, okay? The second issue you could have where you stab and you're not picking up the cards is you might have too many cards in between the backstab gimmicks. Again, a good rule of thumb is if you could pick it up from the very top of the gimmick, like that, you're going to be pretty good, okay? And just kind of shake it around a little bit and make sure it doesn't, because if you're just kind of like playing with fire here and you're over here, you could still pick up, but if you bounce it a little bit, it's gonna go everywhere, okay? So you want to make sure you could kind of like here. So I typically use 10. A good rule of thumb for 2 magnets is just use 10 cards. That's what I use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, you had to watch that. Now, we got the backstab right over here, and this is 10, and you could bounce it a little bit, and it's not going anywhere. So that's a good rule of thumb when you basically put the cards in between. And if you want more cards, again, you could use the additional magnets that we supplied in your backstab package, and you could disassemble this and reassemble it with more magnets, okay? And you could even use 3. 3 will hold probably around 3 more cards, and then all 4 magnets in each card is probably going to be about 8 to 9 cards. So play around with it, and you'll know what you feel comfortable when you perform this effect. That's the second thing. Most common occurrences that could happen where you stab and it doesn't work. So the table and then too many cards in the gimmick. The third thing is the stab itself. When you stab, you want to make sure that you stab, you hold, then you pick up. So you stab, you hold, and you pick up, okay? Because if you just stab and pick up, 2 things are going to happen. The first thing is you just won't get the pack. And the second thing is you might get the pack, but both of the backstab gimmicks are not going to be magnetized. So like if you stab, for example, if you stab really quickly, that's what happens. That's the last thing you want to do when you perform that. So it went all over the place, and you just want to make sure you hold it for a couple of reasons. First, it builds anticipation, and I think it's better for the overall effect. And the second thing is, well, you need to do it because you're going to mess up the trick. So Again, you don't want to bounce it. You want to get a good stab, hold, and then pick up. Stab, hold, pick up. Stab, hold, pick up. Don't do that. Okay. The fourth thing for you, the most common mistake that people have that will not accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish is the angle that you're stabbing the cards at. You want to make sure when you stab, you go straight up and you go straight down. You want to make sure when you go for the stab as well, and this is the fourth most common mistake people do, and I did throughout the evolution of this effect, is stabbing straight. You want to make sure you stab straight. You don't want to angle it. You don't want to, even subtly, like right here, like going like that, what am I trying to say? It moves the cards back. You just want to make sure it goes straight up, just like that, straight up and straight down, okay? And again, you want to make sure this is kind of your sweet spot right here when you stab the cards, okay? This is your sweet spot because if you wound up way too much, like I said before, imagine it like you're playing basketball. The further you are from the hoop, the less accurate you are when you shoot the shot to try to make the basket. The closer you are, the more your percentage goes up. It's the same with this, okay? You kind of want to stab it in this little area right over here. You have to be conscientious that these magnets are right over here, okay? So again, just up, down, no angles, and you want to make sure you get in that little area, okay? And if you take all those into consideration, I think you're in pretty good shape to perform backstab. And I forgot to mention the last and final thing, so I guess it's 5 things, is after about, I would say, 15 performances, the cards in between your backstab gimmick are going to start building more texture because of all the nicks that you do. When that happens, I think I have some examples right over here. It becomes a little bit thicker as cards, okay? This is a fairly new 10 cards. This is an old 10 cards. Although it doesn't look like much, it really is because these magnets are the thicker it is, the less stronger the magnets become, okay? So you want to make sure you refill 10 new cards after 10 to 15 performances in your backstab gimmick so they're as flat as possible for the actual stab. So just keep that into consideration. And again, a good rule of thumb for you to examine how strong your backstab gimmicks are is, again, this is the test right over here. You want to make sure you go up and down just a little bit. And if it holds, you're going to be in a pretty good situation to perform the effect. So there you go. So this is another variation you could use for backstab in your stage show. This is something I'm working out for myself as well. It's a lot of fun and it plays big, and it uses is your 2 backstab gimmicks. So this is what we're gonna do. Scott, can you help me out? Can you help me out? Can you help us out? Okay, fantastic. This is what we're gonna do. I've got a small deck of cards for me, and I've got a big deck of cards for you.
Sweet.
So as you can see, they're numbered on the back, and this is number 28 is the 6 of clubs. Does that make sense? Can you shuffle these cards? So they're good and mixed, and it's not in some kind of order. When you're happy with it, you let me know. Good?
Yep.
All right.
Good.
And as you can see, I forgot to mention before, all these cards are different. Do you see that? All the identity of the cards are different. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I am going to cut these like that, and I'm just going to ask you whenever you want to stop, we're going to stop at, okay?
Stop.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to take those. Why don't you take that card and put it against your body. Don't look at the identity of the card, okay? Did you already look at it? It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. But that's the number 12, yes?
Yeah.
The number 12. I've got my deck of cards right over here. I'm going to take my knife. we're going to show the audience on the count of 3 the cards that we stopped at. You ready?
All right, ready.
1, 2, 3. An exact match. Look at that. And as a kicker, you say 12. That was the number that you chose, yes?
Yeah.
And you saw that? Everybody
Yeah.
saw that? Check it out. The number of cards that I just stabbed to is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There you go. That's a stage version of Backstab. All right, so this is the stage version of a Backstab. It's pretty straightforward. You have a regular jumbo deck of cards, or you could use a regular deck of cards that's just a different back, okay? I like using this because it's nice and big for the back of the audience. They could see what's going on as well. You say on the back of these are different numbers, and on the faces of them, it has a different identity. Like the number 16 has the 5 of diamonds. And then you have a spectator come on stage and they start shuffling these cards. So can you go ahead and shuffle? And I forgot to say, you say we have a big deck of cards and then we have a small deck of cards. I'm gonna use the small, you're gonna use the big, okay? Fantastic. Now, it's really important at the beginning of the effect, you don't spread the face of the cards, okay? You basically just show the back of the cards and that they all have numbers, okay? And as an afterthought, when you receive the cards after the shuffle, you say, oh, I forgot to say, as you can see, all the cards of the face are different. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And then what's going to happen here is basically you're going to go through all the cards until you see the card you want to force, okay? And you just basically put that at the very top of the deck of cards, okay? And then what's going to happen is you're going to cut the cards, and you're basically just going to have a pinky break, okay? So again, you're going to take a stack from the bottom, and you just put it to the top, just like that, okay? And you're going to tell the spectator on stage, I'm just going to riffle through these cards. Wherever you stay stop, we're going to stop at, okay? So go ahead.
Stop.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Go ahead and take that card and put it against your body, okay? You're going to say put it against your body and don't look at the identity of the card. However, what we do know is the number, and the number is?
12.
12. And you say 12. And then you dramatically take out your knife for the audience, and you're going to say 12. Here we go. You stab, pick up your backstab gimmick, and you say, oh, I forgot to mention, you don't want to show the face of the card. You want to, on the count of 3, show the whole audience the face of the card, and it should be an exact match, okay? So you say, Scott, you picked a card?
Yeah.
I stabbed a card.
Yeah.
And on the count of 3, we're going to show the audience our cards.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. An exact match. You should get a round of applause. And then at the end of that, you say, oh, by the way, what was the number again? 12.
12.
Check it out. You take it, you show it to everyone cleanly, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And you just want to make it dramatic. You just want to throw them on the floor, make a mess, and then that's in the effect, and you could take your spectator back to their seat and go on to your next routine. So that's the bare bones of a stage effect and how to use your backstab gimmick for your stage shows. Hope you enjoyed that. All right, so I'm going to teach you how to disassemble and reassemble this gimmick in case you have your own custom cards you want to perform with, or also if you have a lot of nicks, if you perform this a lot, you probably want to do about maybe 15 to 20 performances with the backstab with a knife, and then after that you'd probably want to disassemble it, get new cards, and also reassemble it again so you have a brand new back with no nicks. So I'll teach you how to basically construct this gimmick. Here we go. In your package, you received a gimmick that was already assembled. This is disassembled, and also 4 extra magnets. We added those extra magnets for 2 reasons. Either you could put 4 magnets in every single one of these cards, so your stack could be a lot bigger. It could hold more cards, or you could keep them in case you need, in case you lose these current magnets that you're performing with, you'll have 4 extra ones. I typically just do 4 total magnets, but if you want more in your stack, you could use all 8. Now, this right over here are all 4 of your magnets connected, okay? You want to start like this because the last thing you want to do is, after you assemble your gimmicks, is have a south on a south and a north on a north, and they won't magnetize or make any sandwiches between any cards. So you want to make sure you start like this. And then what I do is I basically push off the top magnet with my thumb, and I hold it with my other hand, and I don't turn it. All you have to do is go directly on the card, okay? The first magnet is going to be on the top right, which is right over here. Now, the placement is really, really important, okay? I place the first magnet right over here, and your point of reference is this circle right over here, okay? This circle and basically this rectangle, okay? And I put it on top of the circle and on the, basically where the top and this line connect. Then you're going to basically go back to your stack of magnets. You're going to push with your thumb the next magnet, and you're going to put the next one at the bottom left. Again, you're going to arrange it so the magnet is basically at the very tip of this circle. And again, your point of reference is this rectangle as well, where this line and this line meet. Then, after you do that, you take your glue, adhesive, whatever you're using, and you basically spray it. Now, if you're using like rubber cement and you need to brush the card, you could do this backwards, where you basically glue on the card, and then you basically put the magnets afterward. You want to make sure the glue goes all the way around the edges, so when you sandwich the cards, there's absolutely no gaps, and that's going to be really, really important, okay? Then you take your first card, and you basically put it right on top of the gimmick. And you want to make sure all the lines are flush. So we're going to pick this up, we're going to rearrange it just a little bit so all the lines are flush. Once they are flush, you want to press all around the edges. Now again, you want to make sure this is tight, because when we start arranging the second gimmick, again, we're going to put it on top of the first gimmick, so there could be a point of reference where these magnets connect. But sometimes when you arrange the gimmick, this magnet, one of these 2 magnets will slip out and connect with one of the other basically gimmick as well. So you want to make sure this is shut really, really, really tight. Now, once you're done with the first gimmick, you're going to take your second card and you're going to spray it first, or glue it, whatever you prefer, like that. Then, after you glue it, you're going to let it sit for a couple seconds. You're going to put it on top of your first gimmick. Then, what you want to do is you want to align these 2 cards so they're absolutely perfect, because this is what you're going to see in your performances. And again, you're going to take your last 2 magnets. You're going to take the first one, you're going to put it right there, and you're going to take the second one, you're going to basically let it drop, and you'll know where the second magnet is underneath, okay? And you want to align this as much as possible, so in performance, you don't have like one card a little bit to the right, and then the bottom card a little bit to the left. You want to make sure it's as aligned as possible, okay? And I'm going to pick this up carefully, and then I'm going to take the 4th card, and you're basically going to sandwich the second card like this. Make sure it's aligned, and you're going to carefully seal all the sides, and then you'll be ready to perform shortly after that. So after you put these two gimmicks under a book after about an hour, a heavy book too, make sure it's about like 10, 15 pounds, like the thickest book you have in your house. It should look something like this. There's going to be a little bit of glue on the sides, and then I would just work the extra glue that would be overlapping from the gimmick. Oh, also I should mention, if you're going to use, so this is how I perform Backstab personally. Some people, they like to have more cards sandwiched in between. Now, if you want to do it with all 4 magnets for more cards, all you have to do is put magnet number 3 right over here and magnet number 4 right over here. And then I would say you get about 7 extra cards when you do the 4 magnets. Now you know how to assemble the gimmick. You're going to perform it, and after a while you're going to see some nicks on the card. And I would say about after 20 performances, and you could look at your cards and be the judge of that, you're going to need to disassemble this and put it in a new gimmick. So when we sent this to you, the assembly was actually pretty straightforward. If you basically have ever split cards before, that's ultimately what you're going to do, but a lot easier. Because we basically took 2 cards and we glued them together. And as you see right here, you've got 2 magnets in between that gimmick. And we'll take this one out too. Right over here, these 2 gimmicks. And all you're going to do is you're going to take these magnets out, because that's all you need. And you're going to basically have them all together in a little stack, like we said before. You get rid of these 4 cards. You go to your pack of cards, get 4 new cards, and you can build a new gimmick pretty quickly. And then again, you just want to make sure all the sides are sealed, and you'll be ready to perform Backstab again. And I'm going to give you a little test here, okay? You want to make sure that when you pick up the cards, it doesn't fall off of the 2 magnets. And the more cards you have, the less the magnets want to attract each other because it's getting thicker, right? So you want to make sure that you have enough cards for your performance, but not too many cards where basically the magnets aren't strong enough to hold your stack, okay? Now this is 11 cards in between and 2 cards on top, so a total of 13. This is about the max I would use for the 2 magnets, okay? And a good test to know that this is all going to be going to connect together, going to be together when you pick up the knife is you basically I take my thumb and my middle finger and I just grab the very top of the card and I pick it up. Just the top of the card and I pick it up. And if it picks up the whole stack, then you'll know that this is going to hold up when you stab it. Now, if you put any more cards, this is 13 cards altogether. Now, this is 13. I would say you're playing with fire right now. It's gonna, yeah, and there you go. It's not. Well, it's picking up, but barely. I would not perform with this. I would be way too paranoid. And there it goes. It just unconnected. So I would say the max with this deck of cards is 11, and that's max. Now, I am a wuss, and I would never do 11 cards. I only do 10. That is just my rule of thumb. That's how I perform. Thank you again so much for buying Backstab. I never thought I would actually come out with an effect to the Magic community, but I did. And the reason me doing this is to take the art of Magic just one step forward in the right direction. I would like to thank my mentors, Rob Dominich and Jim Monroe, for the time you have put into me as an artist and as a person. I would like to thank Nathan Carranzo for originally creating this idea, this version of this effect. If it wasn't for Nathan coming out with this effect, the stab effect years ago, this would not be in existence. If you don't know Nathan Carranzo, he's one of the best thinkers of today, in my opinion. Make sure you check out his stuff. And if you like this effect, make sure you check out two effects. One is called Arthur, and one is called Plunger. Those are two really, really great effects, and it has kind of the same feel as it does of this effect, in method-wise and just visual performance-wise as well. So make sure you check those out. Thank you again so much for buying Backstab. If you want to get connected with me, I would love to get connected with you. My information is going to be somewhere around here, and I'd love to know your ideas and performances of this utility item we just happen to call Backstab.